Alright y'all, we're going to get started on these brackets. I took a few pictures and a few measurements, tried to get a couple ideas of angles with my angle finder here. Yeah, so I already cut one, so we got this piece all chopped off of it, got it all smoothed out. So what my plan is here is to shave this side down to flatten this out more, and then hopefully I'll be able to just go ahead and weld this back together. So I might actually try to fit one, and then we'll just see how it goes from there instead of chopping them both, so I at least have one together, so I have a reference as to angles and whatever. So I'll cut you back when I start getting a little bit of work done with these. So, all right guys, cutting you back. So here's the bracket. Here's the bracket that came with the kit. Let me scoot over here to this control arm. Get my shit out the way. So here's our issue. I don't know how well I'm going to get this on camera. So if you put the plate, the side with the UMI sticker against the control arm bracket, you got quite a big gap right there. This is a shitty angle, I'm sorry. And then if you try to flatten this part out to the way it's supposed to be, you get quite a big angle there. So the problem is this angle is just not right for these control arm mounts. So what I did was I went ahead and chopped, cut the weld here, and cut the weld here. Scoot over to this other side again. All right, so now I got it cut and it fits perfectly. So I just cut the welds and then slowly trim this arm down. And I'm not too worried about this little bitty gap. I gotta cut a groove, kind of grind a groove into this, and then it'll get filled with weld. And then I'm probably gonna go ahead and try to run a thick tack on this. I don't know if my welder is gonna be able to do it. I really don't want to have to bring the whole rear end to the shop, but if I do, I do. So now this plate's fit on this side, and I had to go ahead and, so I'll put these kind of side by side. So this forward hole was already there. It's a big ass hole, and then the hole where I have the bolt in was actually a much smaller hole, and that was the one that actually lined up. So that lined up with my control arm. So I went ahead and drilled that out to a 1/2 inch bolt. What I'm probably going to end up doing is just rounding this off, just cutting this and rounding it off so it just, you know, it looks like that hole was never there. And then I'll just go ahead and tack this in place. So I kind of just judged it off of you know, the placement of this bracket and where the brackets are and everything, and it's pretty damn close. I judged it. I mean, obviously this isn't final. I'll get it a lot closer before I actually weld, but I kind of just looked at this and said, all right, so if you look at it kind of flat, you can tell that arm is just about in the middle of those two bottom holes. And then this top plate, just depending on how you look at it, I would say it's just a hair below the center of this hole, that hole right there. So this top is just about center of that. And then all I was really going to try to do is just make it even. I was going to try to get the same measurement from here to here and go from go from here to here and just see if I can't get that same measurement or close to it. And then I'll go ahead and just weld it on, or tack weld this. Like I said, hopefully it holds. That's about the gist of it. It fits real good now. So let me grab this coilover. So the coilover fits as such. It has this bracket, and then that bracket bolts to here, so then your coilover sits nice and pretty like that, at not a crazy angle. So now the issue I'm running into is that my spring perches are going to hit the coil. So the spring perch right there is going to hit the coil spring. So now not only am I going to have to do this, fabricate this bracket, now I'm going to have to cut off these pretty UMI spring perches that they gave me. So I'm going to, when I cut these off, I'm going to try to cut them off and preserve them, because those are really nice, and I could see maybe using those for another project at some point. Or, you know, if one of my buddies has something they need, I got these perch mounts that, you know, whatever, I got them sitting around. So that's kind of a downfall. I was on the fence about cutting those off, but in reality, I don't need them anymore. It's just wasted weight, so why not get rid of them? I'm gonna go ahead and cut you back on when I get this tack welded, which will probably be, I don't know, sometime throughout the week. I think I'm pretty done. It's like 100 degrees out here today, and it's freaking hot as hell. So I think I'll cut you back when I get these brackets all welded up. Not welded up, but kind of when I get them tacked, and then we'll see how well it fits again, and then I'll start working on this bracket. I just wanted to do one at a time. That way I have something to kind of reference before I chop them both up. So, all right guys, I'll cut you back. All right guys, here we are back. So I got both of the brackets modified. So here we go. They're fitting flush now, the way they should. So what I did was I cut this bracket off of this bracket, so it was welded here and here. I cut it off there. I put this bracket on, put it on the lower control arm mount, and then I just basically kept taking a little bit of material out at a time on this arm and on this bottom plate until I could get this sucked all the way up against it, so that everything was fitting flush. So right now that bolt is all the way tight. This bracket is nice and seated up against that. I even put a little bit of a beveled edge on there, so there's a little bit of a canal there for the weld. Same with right here, you can see it a little better here. So I beveled the edges of this, so there's a little canal for the weld to go into. It hung over this even the way they came. I don't know why they couldn't have just made this a little bit shorter to fit right, but whatever. I probably could, but I'm just going to leave it alone the way it was, so that when we weld it, we can come all the way around it. Maybe that's why they did it too. So like I said, this other one is set up exactly the same. Sorry for all the movement there. So she's all flush up against it. The edges are all beveled. Everything's fitting nice. Once again, I kind of just went off of what the other bracket was. So this arm was pretty much in the middle of these two bottom holes. So that's kind of where I aimed. And then the bracket was just, when I'm talking about like up here on this top mount, it was just up there, just up in this second hole, and not quite halfway, about a quarter of the way or so. So it's pretty much sitting exactly where it was when it was, you know, when I received it. But now it's just the angle is corrected so that these will fit right. Sadly, I didn't even notice this until I filmed my last video. I'm gonna have to modify this even further because yeah, I drilled this hole out to mount, but this defeats the purpose of my adjustable lower control arm mounts, because there's another hole right here and there's another hole right here. So I'm gonna have to, even once I get this bracket welded, I think what I'm gonna do is find a happy medium right here, so where this bracket will clear any bolts, and I'm gonna have to cut it down here, and I'm probably gonna drill a couple holes through the bracket and through the control arm mount, and put two smaller bolts in here, you know, like grade 8s or something strong. Put two smaller bolts right here instead of the one big one. I'm gonna have to figure something out. It's either that or weld these brackets on, and I don't know if I really want to do that. I haven't decided. I might decide to weld them on, but at the moment I haven't decided that. Either way, I'd have to cut them. I'd have to cut the bracket here and make it work. So if you're running a 9-inch with QP's lower mounts, or I don't know, maybe even the Mosier mounts are this way, you're gonna have to modify these brackets just the way I did, or make your own damn brackets. You know, looking at these brackets, they're really not that difficult. I probably could have saved some money and just made these, but I feel better knowing that the geometry on these brackets was probably correct, you know, from the factory, from the way they came. I just had to modify this back plate, the support plate, basically. So I believe the instructions, since these are for a factory G-body, I believe this is actually supposed to go in the control arm hole, and then this hole right here that was already here, I think you're supposed to drill this hole into the mount. So it's supposed to have 2 bolts to hold it. So anyway, I'm gonna get the brackets welded before I start cutting this up, because I want to have somewhere to be able to hold this mount, to hold this bracket in place. So this bolt hole, right, this bolt is gonna hold the bracket in place while I figure out where I'm gonna cut this and mount this. I thought this video would be pretty much done at this point, but now that I see this problem, I'm gonna have to correct that too now. So this video is gonna continue on, and I'm gonna probably get these get this whole rear end loaded up in the old truck and haul it down to my buddy's shop tomorrow so that he can weld these brackets for me, and then I'll bring it back home, and then maybe over this weekend I'll start working on where I can trim these brackets and how I can mount this shit. So yeah, not sure what I'm gonna do here. Time will tell. Probably gonna need to get a few different sizes drill bits. I'm thinking maybe a 3/8, 2 grade 8 3/8 bolts will probably be okay. That should take up enough space. The other issue you're gonna run into with this is I'm gonna have to adjust my mounts. The stands. I'm gonna have to move the stands, bolt in my control arms, and then put them all the way through the range to make sure that whatever bolts I put in here, I have enough room. Because you got to think about that too. The bolts are going to be on this side and on the inside. So are your bolts going to clear those control arms when you have them all the way up in this top hole? So things I'm going to have to think about before I modify this bracket. So hopefully this weekend I'll be able to get this get these lower mounts figured out, and then I'll be able to stab the rear end in the chassis, and we can get our coilovers all mocked up and start getting a few things mocked up back here. And then after that, it's going to be a minute, because I'm gonna go ahead and send all this stuff out and a few other things that I need to gather and get powder coated. So I'm going to quit blabbing your ear off, and we're going to cut you back when we got these all welded and we start modifying these brackets again. All right, guys, as you can see, we got the brackets all welded up. It all fits great. It all fits pretty good now. I got the coilovers mounted. So they're mounted on both sides, and they are going to clear my spring perches, so that's a good thing. I didn't really want to have to cut those off. We got quite a bit of room over there between the spring perch and the coil, so that's a plus. I'm pretty happy about that. I didn't really want to have to cut into this differential and cut those out. So yeah, now we just gotta pretty much, those are done, kind of. So I am gonna have to modify them again. Let me see if I can get in there and show you. So where it mounts to the control arm right there, so under that top bolt, the bottom bolt there is what mounts the lower control arm. and that bracket is covering a bunch of the adjustment points. So what I think I'm gonna have to end up doing is I think we're gonna cut, let me get you a good angle here. I think we're gonna cut it again just behind where this bolt mounts, but first I'm gonna drill 2 more holes so I can put 2 smaller bolts in that bracket to hold it to the control arm. And I think that'll do it. I'll just get maybe like 2 grade 8 3/8 bolts, and then we'll go ahead and mount it just like that, because I want to be able to use those adjustment points on my lower control arms. So that kind of sucks. At this point, besides these brackets, besides those brackets that the coilovers mount to, I basically could have just made these mounts myself. So something to think about. If you have fabrication abilities, you could probably just make these mounts. There's not much to them, and once I looked at them, I was like, man, that's super simple, and I could have made those myself. But yeah, I still like these mounts better than the stupid no bind mounts that other places sell. So yo, what up guys? So cutting back here, this video is going to be kind of messed up because I tried to make this video a long time ago, and I had to edit one of the videos because it was just too long, and that ended up screwing up the video. It like corrupted the video somehow, and so it never uploaded properly, and it just never turned out great. So I never posted a video finishing these mounts. So this is going to be kind of the end of that video. So just to kind of recap, these are this is going to be the Spone rear coilover mount kit that you would order. UMI. This is the UMI Performance rear coilover kit. This is a 2 to 3 inch drop kit. This comes with all the mounting brackets to bolt in rear coilovers on a G-body. These brackets came with the kit, and they are heavily modified now because they would not fit my Quick Performance mounts, my lower control arm mounts on my Quick Performance modified rear end. So I ended up having to cut this bracket, as you would have seen before. Had to cut it, kind of modify it to fit so these plates would fit square onto the lower control arm mounts. And then this had an ear that came out like this, and then it had a single mounting point like right about here. So I shaved that ear off, drilled 2 holes through the plate right here and right here, match drilled the same holes into lower control arm mounts. So now this mounts flush up against the back, because now this is where the shock mount would mount. So this goes to the shock mount hole, and this goes through 2 holes that I have drilled into the mounts. So got all that welded up, got all these made, sent a bunch of stuff off to the powder coater. It's taken me 3 months to get all this crap back from the powder coater. He was busy, and this guy just kind of screwed me around on getting this blue color. So I really like the color. It's kind of see it there. It's got a little sparkle to it. It mildly matches my engine, and that's going to be a separate video. It somewhat matches it. My engine's a little lighter than this, but it really looks good. I'll show you the rest of the chassis here probably in another video, but for right now we're just going over this. You'll see some of the other stuff, but I'm just going to go over these mounts real quick because I just wanted to get this video posted. Had a lot of people ask me about the modification on these brackets for a long time. Finally getting around to doing it, so here it is. This is for the coilover mounts. So I'm gonna jump down onto the floor, and I'm gonna mount this bracket up, and you can see how it mounts on the lower controller mount, and we'll see you there. All right, so here's how this lower control arm bracket mounts. So as you see, it mounts to this lower end. There's the bolt for the lower control arm. There's the adjustable mounts, and then here's the 2 new bolt holes that I made. This is the coilover mount here, and then this piece comes around and bolts right up to that rear shock mount, the stock location. So the bracket kind of hangs down just a hair. I think it's going to hold up just fine, especially since like I said, I added those 2 bolts instead of the 1. It fits great. I'll probably go ahead and get it mounted here real quick and then cut you back on in a minute. So the problem was, as you saw in the previous part of this video, with the way it's set up stock, if I can get this camera in there, the way it was set up initially, there we go. See that tiny gap right here? So this bracket wouldn't even fit flush against this. It was either this side fit flush or this side fit flush. So now it fits nice and square up against that control arm housing. Sorry, I can't do all this one-handed here, but you get the point. Now it fits nice and flush on both sides, and then I gotta mount it. So let me get this mounted real quick, and then I'll cut you back. All right, there you go. Fully bolted on. Fits real nice. Fits real nice up on that bracket now. Got room for the lower control arm bolt, so that we can go through our different mounting points all the way up, down and through it. The only problem I had was, if you can see that, yep, this lower bolt, see how close it is to this? I could barely get on that with my wrench. Had to get a little creative. But otherwise, yeah, it fits great. So lower control arm or lower coilover brackets modified and functional. I just need to now I just gotta lower the rear end down a little bit. So I'll probably put a jack under the pumpkin there and then just kind of wibble wobble it, get the bolt fed through, start it, and then once I get that other side all bolted on, I'll go ahead and put a jack under the pumpkin, and then I'll just wibble wobble it through and get these mounted. But as far as I'm concerned, this video is complete. I'll get this video posted as soon as I can, so that anybody with questions on how to build these or whatever, honestly, you probably could have built these. The only thing that I would be curious about with building these brackets is probably just, you know, the placement of these holes through here. Just making sure you get them straight up and down. So otherwise, this bracket is pretty simple to build. You can order tabs like these from like Speedway and a couple other places, so that you can mount these bolts. You can build a plate. These brackets could be easily made. So just throwing that out there. If I maybe were to do this again for a different vehicle, I'm probably just going to make those brackets. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you like the new blue. I'm going to show you the rest of the parts I got done in blue in another video. So, all right, guys, peace.